everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna, this is Coffee, Books, and Bullet Journals, and it is time to talk about the books that I read in the month of March. Okay, so I want to preface this video with two things. One, this is probably going to be a super chaotic video. There's a lot going on in my house. I have a puppy, which you may have seen on my channel. Not sure if you have by now, but you know. And then I'm doing another board and train for another puppy. And then Zephyr is freshly back from the hospital, which means that other dogs are locked outside and they're going to probably start barking because school's about to get out. So this is going to be chaotic. Okay. The other thing I'm going to preface is this was a terrible reading month. Not in the quantity of books that was read, because I did read 10 books, just in the quality. It was not good. But I did read 10 books. So let's talk about some stats and then we'll spill some tea. So 10 books equaled out to a little over 3,400 pages. I read 3 contemporary, 1 fantasy, 1 mystery, 1 book of poetry, 3 romance, and 1 sci-fi. I read 6 books via audio, 2 books via ebook, and 2 books physically. Pretty standard. I read 7 books targeted at an adult audience and 3 at a YA, which is cool because when I was talking about February, went back to like more YA, whereas in January it was more adult. So this went back to adult, and I'm really happy with that. Here's where I'm not so happy. My average rating for this month was a 2.95. I couldn't even get to a 3-star rating on my average. I had one 1.5-star book, and that book will probably make my worst books of the year. I had 3 2-star, 2 3-star, 2 3.5-star, 1 4-star, and 1 5-star. It was not a great reading month as far as the quality is concerned. I did read 2 debut authors, 4 authors I had read before, and 4 that were new to me, but this was not their debut work. My lowest rated book, coming in at a 1.5 star, was A Taste of Sage by Yafa Santos. I did talk a lot about this in my Vaultathon vlog, so I'll leave it linked up above. This was not good. Not only did it not hit the mark on a contemporary romance as far as it being, you know, good chemistry, good representation, not talking about a condom or birth control of any type during the sexy scenes. It was misogynistic. It was the third act breakup was just cringe. But then on top of all of that, we added in this fantastical element of clairvoyance and being able to tell how someone is feeling based on their food. And she did not do it well, and it was not good. I buddy read this with Margaret at the Word Nerd, and it's really funny because I was teetering on a 2.5 star, and then as she was reading and she was talking to me about it, I was like, yeah, no, I hate this book. This is just not good. It started out so strong. It really, really did. And it made me hungry. But it didn't end well. So there was that. That was my 1.5 star. That's it. Okay, I had 3 2-star reads. The first one I'm going to talk about super fast because I did talk about it in Vaultathon, and that was A La Carte by Tanita S. Davis. This book was really old. I mean, it was published in 2008, and you can definitely tell it didn't age well. We did have some fatphobic comments in there, like her being upset that she was plus size at size 14, which is not plus size, because she was a cook. And that was just weird, and it didn't sit well with me at all. Didn't like that. And the dialogue was just so boring and childish and very, it just cringy. It was just cringy, and I did not have a good time reading it. I was very bored. It took me the entire week to read this book, and it's 220 pages. So I was just not there for it. The next 2-star read was Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. This is the 3rd installment in the Fixer Up series. And I think this is me being done with this author. I can totally see why people will like this one. I just didn't get it. I loved Fixer Up. I thought it really, really worked. And a lot of people didn't. But I DNF'd her second one. Love Her or Lose Her or something like that. And then this one, like, I struggled to get through. And a lot of it stemmed from, like, he was a very alpha male, but then Bethany is a very strong woman. And so these, like, degrading talk during sex, it just didn't sit well with me because, like, I just don't think that she would have been okay with that. In my opinion. I mean, maybe not, but I don't know. It just didn't work with me. And then, like, dear God, they were horny all the fucking time. Like, all the time. I mean, they did it, like, on the set. They basically, this whole thing is, like, that they are building this house on a TV, like, fixer, not, house flip type TV show. And they did it, they snuck away from the cameras and, like, did it in the bathroom of the house they're flipping. And it was just, I don't know, like, Bethany seemed very similar in type A personality to me, and I would have been, like, mortified by the thought of doing that, so I'm just not here for it. So anyway, I can totally see why it would work for some people, because a lot of people do like this one. I'm just not one of them, and I think I'm probably done with this author at this point. My last 2-star read was the group book for the Avengers Initiative Reading Challenge, and that was Sanctuary by Karen Licks. Oh, okay. I talked about this one in my last vlog. This was, there were some choices made. The author was definitely going through some things. The book starts out with the premise that capitalism is good and socialism is bad, essentially. And then you kind of figure out that capitalism is not as great as it sounds. But it was just, it was a very weird thing, and, like, we were, like, trying to be diverse, but it wasn't working, and there were some sentences that were said that was like, do aliens even read? And it was just like, that's a choice. That's just going to be the motto of this whole entire wrap-up. That was a choice. Because this is, like, just, I feel like this video is going to be very negative and very ranty, and I don't know how I feel about that. But we're just gonna go with it. And yeah, didn't really love this. I'll link the live show up above if I can, or if I remember. It was on Christine's channel. But this is meh. Like, will I continue the series? Maybe. Like, I have the second book, so possibly, but, like, I didn't get anything out of this. I've read better space operas. This just wasn't it. Moving on to my 3-star books. The first one I did talk about in Vaultathon again, and that was Chocolate a la Murder by Kirsten Weiss. Can't remember the author's name. There it is right there. I should probably pull these things up when I'm actually doing a wrap-up. This was, like, a fine cozy mystery. I don't read cozy mysteries that much, and so I don't really get or understand the genre per se. I don't understand why the main character, no matter what the situation is, the main character is always the one involved in the murder sometimes. Even if they had no actual relation to the victim or the murder itself or, like, whatever. This book was literally about a woman who walked into a chocolate shop, found the dead body, and then was obviously the lead inspector, investigator, whatever, because her boyfriend is a police officer and she runs a paranormal shop. Makes sense. Again, we had some fatphobic comments in here. It was really weird. She would be like, oh, I ate this chocolate, now my jeans don't fit. And that's not how eating chocolate works. It rubbed me the wrong way. It was a very quick read. I think the audiobook was like 5.5 hours, so I didn't, like, stress too much about it. But it wasn't my cup of tea. I don't love cozy mysteries as a genre in general. I think this one was fine. It's just not my genre. My next 3-star read was a disappointment. I'm not gonna lie. Because I really had high expectations for it. And that is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I really wanted to love this book. I really, really did. I think the concept is there, and I can totally see the audience for this book. I'm just not it. Part of me thinks I'm just a little too dumb for this book because I didn't really understand it. But another part is that I just didn't get the little quirks. Because this book is definitely a love letter to New York, and I can see why someone that lived in New York or, loves the city would really love this book. But I think it really dragged in the center. I don't think we got a whole lot of character depth. I think the cast of characters was a little bit too big, and so we didn't really get involved and invested in the characters because there were too many of them, and I just didn't get it. I'm not gonna be, it's disappointing. This is, I think, one of my 5-star predictions, so I'm a little upset about that. But yeah, I was kind of bored reading it, and I didn't really care. This was a book that I carried over from February. It took me a really, really long time to read. I tried reading it physically. I tried for the audiobook. I tried reading it physically again. It was very, very hard to get into. I totally see that people, why people love this book. Unfortunately, I was just not the target audience for it. Okay, let's move on to my 3.5-star reads. The first one is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a reread for me, and I gave it the exact same rating that I did in 2018, I think. This one definitely has its positives. The romance and the character development is beautiful. The relationship that she has with her daughter as well as with her grandmother, beautiful. I just think that this one had a little bit too much of a convenient plot. And anytime there were issues that would come up or obstacles that would get in the way of her getting to where she wants, it would be resolved within a chapter or two. And that kind of was, I don't know, I don't want to say lazy writing, but it kind of was. I feel like we should have built it up a little bit more. Again, my personal opinion. I know that there are a lot of people that love this book, and not to say that it's a bad book at all. This was a very, very fun read. It makes you very hungry. I do talk a lot more about this in my Vaultathon vlog, so check that out. Because I didn't do a mid-month wrap-up this month, I am trying to rely on my vlogs for the majority of this. I apologize for that. April will have a mid-month wrap-up, I promise. My next 3.5-star read was The Happiest Girl in the World by Alina Dillon. This was an ARC that I received from NetGalley, and I actually really enjoyed this one, and also at the same time really didn't like it. For one reason, and that is that it read exactly what is going on today in USA Gymnastics. So this is a book about a girl who is an elite gymnast, and it takes place right about the same time as the whole Larry Nassar incident with the sexual abuse allegations and all this stuff. So it was a really weird mix, because you had they would drop names of real gymnasts and real people, but then also created false names, and Larry Nassar was not, it was a different person, and then the Curleys were a different person, and it was weird because it would take you out of the story just a little bit, but then I read it so fast. I sped through this book, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I really thought about it even after I had finished the book. So I liked it, but it was too real, I guess, if that makes any sense. It's not a memoir. It was a fictionalized story. It also takes the perspective of the mother into account, and that was a really interesting twist as well, because you got another perspective of the parent trying to achieve the dream as well. So I really enjoyed it. I read it super, super fast, and I do recommend this book, especially if you are one that liked books like Break the Fall. But if you liked that, you'll really, really like this book as well. Okay, moving on to my 1 4-star, and that was Wanna Bet by Talia Hibbert. I don't want to say this was a disappointing read because it was a 4-star read. This one was very different than some of her other books, and I can definitely I can tell that it was written earlier, obviously, than the Brown Sisters. This book was one of the first books that I read during the month, so I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember most of it at all. So it was a little bit forgettable. The plot seemed to drag a little bit, and it didn't quite hit me the same way that some of her other books have. Not saying it was bad, still really loved it, just probably my least favorite of her full-length novels. Okay, and then moving on to my 1 5-star read, and it wasn't even a book that was on my TBR, it was just something I had a NetGalley arc for, and then I went and bought a physical copy because I loved it so much, and that was Shine Your Icy Crown by Amanda Lovelace. This is her newest book of poetry, and I specifically bought it physically because it has these beautiful illustrations in it, and my e-copy, it just wasn't showing up the same way, but like it has these beautiful drawings, and then these like full-length illustrations, and it's beautiful. This is definitely a quieter book than say like The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one. It's a lot like what's the one before? Like the one before this is like, what is it? Break Your Glass Slippers, I think, that I read last year. Really, really loved that one. I think that one was probably my favorite of all of her books. And this one has a very similar tone to it. And it's just beautiful. It's about female empowerment. And I really, really loved it. So I bought a physical copy of it. So, okay, those were the 10 books that I read in the month of March. I'm really glad to like put that behind me. It's really funny because March of 2020 was also not a great reading month, and I chalked it up to COVID because I wasn't in a good headspace because it was the beginning of the pandemic and all this stuff, and I only had 1 5-star read of that one too, and it wasn't like a breakout all-time favorite book. So interesting that 1 year later we're kind of just recycling this. Interesting. Cool. Hopefully April is better. But that's all I got for you today. If you are new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video, and all of the other links to my social media will be in the description below if you would like to be my friend on any other platform. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. What makes this heart beat faster?